how devastating the disease was to me. Obviously, it has been really devastating, but it was people were thinking of it as apocalyptic at one point, weren't they? As if we're all we're all doomed, and it hasn't been as bad as perhaps it might have been. So,
well, I'm going to reaffirm that sentiment this evening. I think that'll cheer everyone up.
I don't know. It's hard to get your head around it, and of course there are a lot of people suffering. But day to day, for me, it hasn't been too bad. It's just been frustrating, but I can't exactly complain. I'm determined not to complain because I realise I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
It's sort of a bit, it's like, who wants a well-known person moaning because they can't be on television or something? I mean, the people are really suffering, but the reality is weird, isn't it? There's two different things. There's the disease, and then there's the lockdown, and they're sort of different things, aren't they? And most people are dealing with the lockdown, and the lockdown's like a real pain, but it's not as bad as being ill.
Yeah,
any imagination. And also, if you're locked down and you've got your health, you're just kind of you're grateful that you're not unwell. So you kind of got to just try and think of positives.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing I've seen doing this job is that how lucky we are, because I look at the families we look after that are all locked down and all really worried about it. You're right. We are really lucky to just have us health more than anything.
Yeah, I think if you've got very vulnerable members of your household, it must be very worrying.
Yeah, which is why I wanted to give them tickets to this, so you can put a smile on their faces.
Well, maybe I'll wipe that smile off their face. Don't know yet. That'll be fun. It'll be fun. So we're probably about ready to go.
Yeah. I will make myself disappear.
And I will do the same.
Oh, don't leave me alone with it. Don't leave me alone.
Brilliant.
Whatever you do, don't leave me alone with it.
Right.
So you won't see us, but we'll still be able to control things if you need any support.
Like the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, just like God. So when I hit broadcast,
do you want to count down?
Yeah, when I hit broadcast, that you'll see people coming in and coming in and coming in. So that 30-second lag. So here we go. 3,
30 seconds.
2, 1. You're live.
Just waiting for people to filter in. We're supposed to just stare now for a little bit.
We can talk amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
People slowly join.
Be like when you're at a restaurant and the waiter just comes over and hears the end of a conversation and it's just harrowing. Just make it like that. Really freak people out.
Well, you're looking well.
Oh, thank you. You are too. I decided to have a shave. I tried to compete with Manfred's beard last week, and someone in the comments.
He's always growing a beard, isn't he? Because he's always doing some acting of some. He's always doing Chitty Chitty Bang Bang or something. And he's going, why would you want to go see him in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? He sings and dances, does he?
Yes, indeed. He
doesn't look like it, but he does. I can talk. I love Jason, so I can say that. I can say that. I'm going to be mean about Jason.
Yes, indeed. He's a triple threat.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I can see lots of participants. This is very exciting. Why don't you begin? Because people
they all in. Well, I just thought it might be nice to sort of start by talking about how we met.
Well, it's a big mystery to the public.
Yeah. Yes.
On Britain's Got Talent. And someone once asked me where I met Elton John, and I said, I met him. He was a contestant on Britain's Got Talent. But you really were a contestant on Britain's Got Talent, and were you 14?
14, I think I'd just gone
14 years old, and you came onto the stage with your walker, and you said, I know what you're thinking, Harry Potter's had a really bad Quidditch accident. And immediately was like, wow, this guy's funny. And then you were brilliant, and you were runner-up. Even the show's called Britain's Got Talent, you were runner-up to some Hungarian people. Yeah,
I was the final domino that started Brexit. That's when people went, right, there's enough.
That's it. We need our country back. We can't have a Hungarian puppet theatre group win Britain's Got Talent.
That should have been on the bus in a sort of asterisk: 350 million for the NHS and 250 grand for Jack Carroll.
Yeah. So we met then, and immediately I could see how talented you were, and I was amazed by that because I've been trying to be funny for all my life, and I've never been that funny. And also, I certainly wasn't that funny when I was a teenager. I was just annoying. Well, I'm probably annoying now.
I mean, if you ask certain members of my household whether I was funny or annoying, you may get a slightly different answer.
Yeah. So anyway, you did brilliantly, and then you came back and did BGT Champions as well. And I imagine at some point you'll probably do the Champions in America as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah, at some point, I think that might be a good idea. But yeah, so I first sort of became aware of your work when I was about six years old. I remember it quite vividly, actually, watching Little Britain one night, and it was the therapist sketch in Little Britain. And I remember my cousin turned to me at that point and said, "You can stay downstairs and watch it as long as you don't repeat any of it at school."
Right, okay.
And I thought, I'm in here. This is going to be good.
Well, the best comedy shows, I think, when you're a kid, aren't they? The ones that are a bit forbidden. And so when I was a kid, it was shows on at 9 o'clock, like Not the 9 O'Clock News, which if you haven't seen, you should have a look at because it's one of the best sketch shows of all time. And the Young Ones were my absolute favourites of that period, and it was always my mum and dad used to send me and my sister to bed if there was a really rude sketch on Not 9 O'Clock News. I can't repeat them because there'll be children watching. But there were sort of songs with lots of really big double entendres in them. But of course, when you're like 10 years old, you've got no idea what the joke is.
Yeah.
But we were sent to bed anyway. Because we've been missing our favourite show. And it was different then because there was no catch up and there was no video recorders or anything. So
yeah, you had to be there.
You had to be there, or you missed it. But well, I'm pleased that you enjoyed Little Britain, and it's nice that me and Matt have been able to come back and do a few bits and pieces. We did a little Brexit special for Radio 4, which was fun. And we also did some sketches for the Comic Relief Children in Need Big Night In.
Yeah.
And then if you saw that, we sort of revisited some of the characters in a sort of homemade way that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, because that's I came to the Brexit special, and that was a really nice thing, I think, to see, to be a witness to a little piece of comedy history, and it's sort of great that you're back together working.
Yeah, well, we actually didn't, when we did the little Brexit special, we didn't announce it because we thought we don't really want to perform it for an audience of like, you know, I don't know, like crazy fans. We'd rather just have an audience, a normal Radio 4 audience, and then let them know kind of what they were at. So we invited a few friends like yourself, but we just sort of walked onto the stage together, and then people realised it was a Little Britain reunion, and it was good. We had something to write about because we had Brexit to write about. But weird, isn't it? Brexit's been forgotten, and I think, I don't know about you, but in this current crisis, I'm kind of missing Brexit because that was the one topic of conversation we had for like 5 years. And now we've got another topic of conversation which doesn't seem like it'll ever go away.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about Brexit, but you knew where you were with trade reforms, didn't you? There was none of that. You don't need a vaccine for some trade reforms.
No. It's nice to be able to connect like this. It's very nice to be able to connect like this, and I'm very grateful for all the people who've come on to watch and support this brilliant charity.
Yeah, because it is a fantastic charity. Yeah, if you don't know, we're doing this in aid of Forget Me Not Children's Hospice, helping children all across the West Yorkshire region who have life-threatening conditions. So it's sort of great to get you involved, and I think
absolute pleasure.
We'll have a lot of fun. You say you invited a few friends to that Little Britain Brexit special. The first person I saw when I walked in the venue was Noel Gallagher, right?
Yeah, okay.
So it's not just friends.
Oh, it is a friend, but yeah, he's a very funny guy, and I think his sons. He's got two sons who are sort of about 12 or 13, and I think they were big fans, and I think that was the reason they wanted to come. But yeah, it's pretty cool. He's cool because he's iconic. There's certain people, aren't there? They're famous, and they're a bit beyond famous. They're iconic, and he's a sort of iconic British celebrity, isn't he? And obviously he's a great artist. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun. I went to his wedding and I was sat next to Paul Weller, and that was quite overwhelming as well. But Paul Weller's quite nice. He was really into Tony Hancock, an old British comedian, so we had something to talk about. But
oh, fantastic! Yeah, I made 2 faux pas with Noel Gallagher. Firstly, I was wearing Liam's brand of clothing, the jacket.
Okay. Well, it's Pretty Green, it's called.
Yeah, it was pretty green. And then I said, Noel, do you want to know how I use my walking frame? I just roll with it, right? And I was like, that's a good opening, you know. And then, yeah, and then I got that sort of Noel Gallagher bit of a stare, but he did eventually laugh.
Yeah, he's maybe a little. Maybe he's. I don't know. Maybe he's a little shy or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I met his brother a few times, who's a very difficult person to have a conversation with. I wanted to choose my words well there. But yeah, very, very difficult, very bizarre character. So I sort of understand, having met Liam, why Noel wouldn't be in a rush to reform Oasis.
So is there any plans to bring Little Britain back long?
There is. I mean, we were all talking about it, and then obviously this crisis happened, which has made everything that whatever plans that you had kind of be pushed so far into the long grass that you can't. They're not really plans anymore, are they? They're just more sort of dreams. And so we were talking about all kinds of things, like, you know, perhaps doing some more TV, perhaps doing some more radio episodes, perhaps doing a live show. But none of those things are sort of can happen right now. And obviously, when you're collaborating with somebody like I do with Matt, we have to be in the same room together to be creative, and so we can't do that right now. So obviously, we managed to write the sketch for the Big Night In remotely, you know, as talking as we are now. But it's harder to write a whole series. You know, like that, because you need to be in the same room, and the whole thing is we're basically playing a game when we were writing together to try and make each other laugh, and you know, I just don't know if we'd be able to kind of replicate that if we were, you know, in separate spaces. But hopefully, you know, in the next couple of months, I don't know, no one knows today. Everyone hopes that someone knows all the answers, but hopefully in a couple of months or some point in the near future, we'll be able to sit and write some jokes together, make each other laugh, and then if we feel we've got something good, we'll want to share it with people.
Yeah, that's something to look forward to after lockdown's over.
Yeah, I'd say it's not the number one thing, but it's.
Well, there's a vaccine.
For me and Matt, we're looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a vaccine, and then there's the Little Britain special just below that in list of priority. Well, that's brilliant. I know we've got a lot of your younger fans watching the broadcast tonight, because you made the jump to children's fiction. What sort of inspired that move?
Well, I wrote my first children's book, The Boy in the Dress, I think about 12 or 13 years ago, and I just had an idea for a story. I thought, what would happen if a boy went to school dressed as a girl? How would his friends react? How would his family react? How would the teachers react? And the more I thought about the story, the more I thought, well, it's a sort of story about a child. Maybe this would make a good children's book, and it would be about what it is to be different. And I wrote it, and I was proud of it, and it came out, and, you know, some people liked it, but it wasn't like a bestseller or anything. But I realized, there's so much you can do in a children's book that you can't quite do in a comedy sketch. You know, like you can develop the characters more because you've got more time with them, and you can have just sad scenes as well as funny scenes. And I just got into it, and then now I'm writing children's books for kids who weren't born when I started writing children's books. And I didn't start writing the children's books until really we'd already been doing Little Britain. So it's sort of weird. It's like another chapter in my life, but it's now this chapter has been going on so long. I don't quite know what I'm saying. I know that I've been doing it a long time. I think that's the short version. I've been doing it a long time, and I feel like I'll know I've made it as a children's author when people come up to me and say, I used to read your books when I was a kid, and now I read them to my kid.
Yes.
Now, I've only been writing them for 12 years, so I know some people like to start early, but I mean, ultimately, there has not enough time has passed for anyone to have had a child at the time. But I guess in another decade or something, it might happen.
That's a competition you could run on Twitter.
No, I don't think so. But it's a that I think that's when you kind of made it. Because I've been reading during lockdown. I've been with my son, who's 7, and we've been working our way through all the Roald Dahl books, which has been fantastic. And the thing about him is obviously Roald Dahl died sort of nearly 30 years ago, but he wrote some of his stories like in the 60s, and they're still fresh to children. And I think that's when you really, you've made it, when it gets passed from generation to generation.
Does your son read your books?
Yeah, sometimes, but I just sort of don't. I sort of just let him choose. I feel like it would be wrong to go, oh, let's read my book now, because then he'll be in therapy when he's older.
Does he make the connection though that you creative?
Yeah, he knows that I do it, and I mean, he's 7 years old. He's pretty. He knows what's going on, but I just sort of think. I don't know. I just feel like I want to be dad, and if he wants to read one of my books, great. If he doesn't matter. If he wants to watch a bit of Britain's Got Talent or something, great. If he doesn't matter. Because I just like being dad. I don't really. It's not really like, hey, look, I'm really famous. I do all these things. It's really kind of irritating.
Yeah, I think.
But I sort of had to explain to him that I was well known, because so many people would come up to me to talk to me while we were out together. So I had to explain what was happening, and he said a very sweet thing, because I said because he didn't really like it at first. I remember, when he was like 3 or something, he didn't know what was going on, and I say, look, there's nothing to worry about, because people are only coming up to say hello because they like me, and so it's only people who like me, so you don't need to worry about it. Which is kind of true, isn't it? You don't bother saying hello to somebody you don't like.
No.
And then he said, yeah, that's because everybody likes you, Daddy.
Oh, that is lovely.
Sweet. And it's not true, but it's nice for him to think it.
He's obviously never been on Twitter.
Yeah. So what? What's been the funniest sort of encounter you've had of being recognised?
I think getting mistaken for Lost Voice Guy is always a good one. Because
what do they say? Are you Lost Voice Guy?
Well, I was coming out of King's Cross Station a couple of weeks ago, and 2 women who'd been on a boozy lunch came up, and one of them went, "It's him, it's him," and the other one went, "I don't know who it is," and she went, "Oh, you know who it is, Lost Voice Man, right? Lost Voice Man." Bearing in mind, I just said hello to her. What did they think?
It was all an act.
Yeah, that I'm really just committing to the routine.
It's kind of, it's always good, because there's always people who are very happy to put you in your place. Become a bit well known. It's a brilliant thing. There's always someone who will drag you down and not know your name and be a bit rude to you or something like that. It's kind of fun. And
the great equalizer.
Excuse me.
Was that a bit of Jammy Dodger crumb there?
It was. But that's part of the fun of being well known, isn't it? Really, is people mistaking you for other things. Oh, hey, it's Matt Williams. What? Dom Jolly. Wow. How about that? That show you do, Small England. Okay. And I get this one a lot. Oh, such a shame you're not on the X Factor anymore.
Yes, I get that too.
Who do you think I am? Cheryl Cowell? I mean, also, you must have watched it, so it's made no impression on you whatsoever. Yeah. These things are fun, and actually, I rather enjoy it. It's more fun, actually, to be insulted than to be praised.
There's a nice thing of when you're in a sort of foreign city as well, you don't know many people there or whatever, and then someone recognises you. That's always a nice moment, because you feel
it happened to Ant and Dec, because Ant told me that the Susan Boyle clip from Britain's Got Talent, obviously, as we all know, went around the world and was seen everywhere. He said he was once in Dubai, and one of the local guys who was working in one of the hotels goes, I know you. And he went, oh, all right, yeah, who am I then? He goes, You're Susan Boyle boy. Susan Boyle boy. That's what it was. Susan Boyle boy. I don't know if he was actually like a child of Susan Boyle's or. It's all brilliant, isn't it? Susan Boyle boy.
That is great.
I wonder if anyone's ever sort of said to the Queen, going, do I know you or something? I mean, someone must have done, mustn't they?
Yeah. Although she probably goes out wearing the crown, I reckon, just for a bit of brand recognition.
Yes, apparently she did once go around a supermarket because she just wanted to see what it was like.
Yeah.
It must be incredible to be like that well known from the moment you're born, and so you just never have any experience of real life.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Yeah,
it's like Eric Cowell.
Royalty.
Groomed for stardom. He's always on the show.
Yes, indeed. That's an interesting one. Do you think he will take over the family business? That would be an interesting.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's hard to predict, isn't it? I mean, with children, I don't know if you can try and push them in a certain direction, and sometimes they just want to do something else. I mean, I actually think it's probably better when your children don't want to do what you do, because then I think they're never going to be compared to you, and I think that's probably quite hard to be compared.
Yeah.
To, if you have a famous mother or father.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it can't be easy, say, being one of the sort of children of the Beatles and being a musician, for example.
Yeah,
like
which
that.
a lot of them are.
Yeah, and I mean, look, they're very talented, but it's just tough, isn't it? Because every day you're being compared to the most famous band of all time. So, I'd be happy for my son to want to do something else entirely. And I don't know with Eric Cowell. I guess he'll be some sort of hotshot something or other.
Yeah, I think that is Martin Amis always had that thing, because his dad Kingsley Amis was a writer and a novelist, and he went and did the same thing, and he had that thing of the press hated him because they just conflated him with his dad and thought he'd been around for 180 years doing the exact same thing, and they just wanted rid of him, and that that was difficult for him to follow in those footsteps.
Yeah. Sometimes people, obviously plenty of people are very successful, but doing the same thing, but I wouldn't have wanted, when I think back, I'm not sure I would wanted to have a famous father who was a comedian or something, because I just think,
definitely. Well, my dad thinks he's a comedian, but he's not.
Well, I'm sure he is very funny, your dad, as is your mum as well.
Yes, indeed.
He's always very flirty.
What?
Put it out.
There's people watch. Oh, unbelievable! I'm never going to live that down now. That must be an interesting thing as well, because you've done quite a lot of TV screen adaptations of your books. Is that an interesting thing to see, the transition of the characters from the page to the screen?
Yeah, I like it, and I like having a sort of second go at the story, because sometimes there's little kind of glitches in the story that maybe I notice more than anyone else, but I'm sort of thinking, we're quite good to have another little go and just iron out a couple of little things that weren't quite right. I mean, I don't think the average person would notice them, but it's quite interesting to revisit it and think, is there a different way of doing something?
Yeah.
And is there something better? Sometimes I think, I wish I'd have thought of that in time when I was writing the book. Just making connections between characters that hadn't previously been made. But so yeah, I like doing it, and I had a musical version of The Boy in the Dress, my first children's book, at Stratford upon Avon with the Royal Shakespeare Company, which was fantastic, with these songs by Robbie Williams, and I was just thrilled that happened. And it gets changed a bit, but I kind of think, well, the book's the book, and the TV adaptation is the TV adaptation, and the stage show the stage show. It's great that they have a life.
Yeah, and that's part, like you say about them having a life. I suppose that's part of the fun, that they get to go and be something.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're very lucky if your book gets adapted to be anything other than what it already is. So, and if people want to change it a bit to make it better, then great. But I've always been heavily involved in the adaptation, so I'm not one of these precious people who's like, what I wrote was a work of genius, you can't change a word, which is fine. I'm just like very happy for other people's ideas to come in and to make it better.
And in terms of getting ideas, like, I would assume a show like Britain's Got Talent is quite good for the old creative juices in terms of seeing different people and hearing their stories and stuff.
Yes, I mean, there's so many stories, and of course, as a well-known person, you sort of meet a lot more people perhaps than the average person might meet. And so you have a chance to ask them stories. And I always, whenever I meet anybody, whatever they do, they say, oh, I'm a plumber. I go, what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you as a plumber? And I met this man who worked for Ocado, and he said, I said, you know what, there must be some good stories. And I was like, yes, there's a man who orders his Ocado, and then he leaves the door open. He sits in the nude in his house for the Ocado man.
Yeah, I must ring me granddad.
And it's sort of stories like that, and you think, this is an amazing story. And and it's sort of, again, you get so many ideas for sketches and things. But on Britain's Got Talent, of course, we have all these brilliant characters. And we once had this man come onto the stage, and his name was Cockroach Ken. And he was like, I'm going to eat live cockroaches. And he got out this brown paper bag and he started eating live cockroaches. It's the sort of standard of talent that you had to beat, Jack. And he got buzzed off, and I thought, oh, a man who eats live cockroaches. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I thought, what an amazing character he was. I mean, and I thought, okay, eating live cockroaches, what if he was like caught rats and turned them into burgers or something? And then I created this whole character around him and wrote this book called Rat Burger. And I didn't have to ask him or anything, because it was, by the time I'd created the character, it was completely different. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't normally meet someone called Cockroach Ken unless I was sat on Britain's Got Talent.
No, and that is one of the great things about Britain's Got Talent. Is sort of, it seems to be a magnet for those sort of people, really.
Yes, I mean, and I think there's a difference between being entertaining and being talented.
Yeah,
there's plenty of people who are talented who come on and sing a Mariah Carey song, and you go, well, it was very pleasant, but you're sort of bored because you've heard it 100 times before. But someone who comes on and does something kind of crazy or unexpected is much more likely to capture your imagination.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of unexpected things, this is something I've always wanted to know. Have you ever genuinely annoyed Simon Cowell?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we call it Pengate. It was quite a few years ago, and he was like interrupting me, and I didn't really think, just as a joke, we have biros on the table, and I just threw the biro at him, and I didn't think it would hit him, but it was a really accurate shot. Thrown quite hard, and it just hit him like that. But he was like, I could have been blinded. I was making a whole thing about it. I mean, he couldn't have been. It became known as Pengate, and it was like, it went on for a long time, and I had to buy him like a present to say sorry, and everything. It was awful. So, and he still mentions it. He still says Pengate, as if it's like as big as Watergate. Yeah, I have annoyed him. I have annoyed him at times, but I think he's quite good. I think he probably kind of likes being annoyed, because remember how much Sharon Osbourne used to annoy him.
Yeah,
I think she used to drive him nuts, but he still had her back year in, year out. So, and
there's probably not that many people in his life who give him that sort of friction.
No, I think everybody else is just going, oh, yes, son. No, son. Oh, no. Because I see his sort of team around him, and everyone's, I'm trying to use the right expression, but, there is a rather rude expression, but they're basically, no, I can't think of any kind of expression that's not rude, yes. but they're basically, kissing his feet everywhere he goes, like he's somewhere.
And that is what makes that dynamic great, that there's something real at stake. It seems like anything could happen when you're
well, I guess I've got no filter, and so I'll just say or do anything and annoy and embarrass him.
Yeah.
And when we had a Carmen Electra on the show, and she was an ex sort of Baywatch star that I think Simon rather liked, and when Amanda fell ill one year, she took over for a few days.
Yeah.
And I said to him, stop showing off, Simon, just because you fancy Carmen Electra. And he said I made him feel like he was 10 years old, and he wished the ground would swallow him up. He'd never been spoken to like that. And it obviously was true. Like, that only hurt you if it's true. And and I probably there's not many people who would have been quite that sort of direct with him as I was.
Yeah. That because you've done so much different, like talking. I've just realised you do so much different stuff.
None of it well, but I do it all.
Well, that's what everyone who does different stuff says. They have to say that, otherwise, they come across as a sort of a mad Renaissance figure. But yeah, I'm just sort of wondering: is there any one thing that is your favourite that you prefer over others?
I like writing books because I think it's more lasting. I love doing Britain's Got Talent, but like all television, it's disposable, isn't it? I mean, obviously you're not, but you know,
Well,
it's great. People love it when it's on, and they occasionally they might revisit the clips, but basically it happens in the moment, and then you know it finishes, and just people get on with other stuff and watch other stuff. Whereas a book is a little more lasting, and I think it's obviously a very personal way to communicate with somebody. And I think I noticed that the kids who have read my books, the way they talk to me is sort of different perhaps than the ones people who've just seen me on TV.
Yeah.
If people have seen you on TV, you're just another celebrity. Oh, have a selfie. But people who've read your book, I have a question about your book, Mr. Walliams, and all this kind of thing. And I read this bit, and and it's amazing how much it's seemingly sort of entered their headspace, and that's a wonderful thing. And it's a big responsibility as well, because if the books are bad, your kids might not read another book because you might put them off reading. And second, you know, you might fill their head with an idea which may sort of change the way they think about something. I mean, I'm not saying they always do that, or you know, even that's necessarily likely, but it might happen. Something like the boy in the dress, it might make someone feel differently. May help somebody. May change someone's opinion, you know, and so it's an amazing thing. So I don't take it for granted.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Speaking of people asking you questions, we're going to get to some of you viewers' questions in just a second. But before I do, I think there's someone who would like for you to give them a big birthday shout out, if that's okay.
Yes, but I've in the time that we've been talking, I've forgotten his name.
Don't worry, I've written it down for that eventuality exactly. So Finley,
I knew it half an hour ago. Finley is 9 tomorrow, and he's a very special little boy. He's been looking after his sister, and obviously it's tough. A lot of kids and grown-ups having their birthday in lockdown is not as much fun as it should be. So I wanted to take the chance to wish Finley a very happy birthday for tomorrow.
Yeah, lovely. Happy birthday, Finley. Right, should we get to some
questions?
Lovely. So I think we can go into, this is the technical stuff that I'm not particularly good at. So people who've got blue hands next to them, they can ask us questions on video. So if possible, we're going to go to Marie Dobson now to ask a question. Has Marie got a microphone on?
Yeah, hello.
Hi there.
Marie.
Hi. So it's a question from Finlay. Do you want to speak?
Thank you for the happy birthday.
Oh,
What
anytime, Finley. Well, anytime it's your birthday.
What did you ask him?
Will you be creating another book?
I will be. Well, I've been doing it. I mean, the one thing about not being able to leave your house is that if you're a writer, it's given me lots of time to write. So I've written a book called The World's Worst Parents, which is being put together at the moment, illustrated and everything, and it's going to come out, I think, at the beginning of the school summer holidays, so maybe in a couple of months' time. So that's the next one to come out, The World's Worst Parents. But as soon as I finish one, I have to get on to the next one, because I've actually been writing sort of 4 books a year, so it's sort of, my work is never done. But thank you, Finley.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Lovely stuff. Now we're going to go to. There's a lot of people with blue hands here. It's like people with poor circulation. We're going to go to Claire next. Claire, if you just unmute yourself. There we go.
Can you hear us?
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
This question is for David.
Yes.
Who do you prefer working with, Matt Lucas or Simon Cowell?
Matt Lucas, because Simon Cowell, no word of a lie, is normally about 4 or 5 hours late. And sometimes he's about 10 hours late.
Oh.
And it's like your whole life is sort of waiting for him to come. Which I'm a very punctual person. If someone says, be there at 9 o'clock, I'm there at 9 o'clock or 8:59 or something, and he's not. And so that drives me bananas. So I'd rather work with Matt. And Matt's Simon doesn't really get comedy. He's first to admit he has no sense of humour. So it's quite hard to have a laugh with him the same way you would Matt. So Matt Lucas, yes, Matt Lucas is my number.
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. I will try.
Lovely. We're now going to go to Dan Moss. Oh no, we're not. We're going to. Oh, I've opened up 2 there. Dan, if you want to go first, and then Lorraine, you can ask your question. Oh, has Dan gone? Dan's there.
Hello?
Hello.
David,
Yes.
if you could do any other job, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. If I could do any other job, well, look, I don't have the talent or the knowledge, but wouldn't it be great to be David Attenborough and make nature programs for the whole world and spend your whole life just doing that and sort of, educating and delighting people around the world. So I think either being David Attenborough or making one of his programs, going out to the Arctic and filming all the animals there or something like that. I think that was the kind of thing I'd love to do. Or be Queen of England, which may still happen.
I'd like to be one of the animals in the David Attenborough documentary.
Well, that can be arranged. That's a wonderful thing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Lorraine is up next, I think.
Hello. My question, I'm going to ask my question for my daughter Amelia, and Amelia gets lots of help and support from Forget Me Not. So her question is, in Little Britain, as Lou Todd, you showed great qualities and skills as a carer for Andy Pipkin. If your current career as a best-selling author, TV personality, comedian and general all-round national treasure becomes tiresome, I'd be really happy to let you put in a shift as a carer for me. So what do you think?
Well, that sounds fun, actually. And I remember meeting some carers when Little Britain started going, oh, yeah, you've got it right. That's what it's like being a carer. I guess he's just incredibly patient, isn't he, and put upon. So it was quite fun playing him. Yeah, I suppose I'd like it, yeah, for a bit of time. I think of myself as Simon Cowell's carer.
Yeah. Well, Amelia's a bit of a diva, so you'd need to be at a beck and call quite a lot.
Okay, I could do that. Simon's a bit of a diva. He's 60 years old. I'm 60, and I want everyone to know that. 60. So I'm sure I will ultimately become his carer. Hopefully, I will be able to change his will. He leaves it all to me.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you.
Cheers. Well, so we're going to take one more on audio, and then if people want to just fire their questions into the Q&A, we'll get through a few more, and then I'll let you go enjoy your lockdown. John Stanton.
Good evening. Question for you both.
Yeah.
In acting or in comedy career, who was your biggest influences and why? That's to both of you.
Oh, that's
Jack,
a big.
you're not allowed to say David.
I must. We've already established that.
Oh, well, that's very nice. That's very nice. Well, Matt did all the funny bits. Who was I say most influenced? I loved Rick Mayall so much growing up, and The Young Ones was the show that I loved, and seemingly everyone I knew loved in the 80s. And he was such a superstar, and I mean, it's so sad he's gone. I never got the chance to meet him, but I loved him, and I suppose I just quoted him, and he was a huge influence. But I mean, you go through periods. I don't know. Sometimes you go through a Monty Python period, and then you go through a Young Ones period, then you go through a Peter Sellers period, and all that kind of stuff. But I think Rick Mayall was the one. He was just so exciting and so young, and he was so attractive and hilarious, and he burned so bright, and it's so sad he's gone. So I would say Rick Mayall.
Mm. I think the first comedy I ever, so I was in hospital when I was 6 for a few months having a back surgery, and I just watched I'm Alan Partridge over and over and over again, which that's one of the things that sort of made me want to become a comic, really.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Lovely. Right, so we'll get through a few Q&A questions. Someone said, at least you're not sat in the toilet this week, Jack, because Manford thought that looked like some sort of toilet cubicle that I was sat in last week. So we've managed to put a background on it as not to alarm anyone watching.
Yes. Making
So
sure see that.
Hi, when I was training to be a teacher, my English tutor recommended 2 books to read to children: The Mole Who Knew It Was None of His Business and The Boy in the Dress. What would you recommend?
The Boy in the Dress, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, it depends how old the kids are, but I do think Roald Dahl books are just fantastic, and I've never read one I didn't love. I also think Judith Kerr, who wrote the Mog books and The Tiger Who Came to Tea.
You did the voiceover for that, did you?
Yeah, I did. But she was a marvelous lady, and I love her books. And Dr. Seuss, I'm quite obsessed with Dr. Seuss. I think he's just incredible. The work is just so extraordinary. So I say, yeah, Dr. Seuss books are great. I think anything that transports you to another world is always a good thing as a children's book, and that's what I love about the Dr. Seuss books, and that's what I love about a lot of Roald Dahl books, that they do that. But also, once they get to a certain age, I think Harry Potter is just the best thing ever.
Yeah.
My son's just got into Harry Potter, so we've been watching Harry Potter movies every night and talking about Harry Potter and listening to the audiobooks and reading them and playing Harry Potter Lego and all that kind of stuff. And so, it's a wonderful thing if there's something like that captures children's imaginations like that.
I think he's particularly got a great look as well. I don't know why I would think that, but that's what struck me.
Yeah, he's great. The whole thing's incredible. And what I love about that is that it all happened in her lifetime. Because normally, you write something and then maybe 50 years later someone makes a movie of it, and then everyone goes, "Oh, it's such a shame they weren't here to see it." But she's been there, and she's still a relatively young woman. Yeah. And she's seen this global phenomenon.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no stopping. I once went to India, and I went to a little village, and it was like in rural India, and in the little corner shop, which was really just a shack, on sale was a Harry Potter calendar. And I thought, you gotta hand it to her.
Yeah.
If there's no Harry Potter in this remote rural Indian village, then this thing is never going to go away.
Yeah. I'm going to try and let Bertie ask you this live if that works. Is Bertie on there? No, unfortunately not. But Bertie says, "What is your favourite book you've written and why?"
Favorite book I've written. It's hard to say. I think The Boy in the Dress is quite a special one because it was the first one and I didn't really know what I was doing exactly. I just sort of poured myself into it. It's the most personal of my books, and lots of people regard it as the best. So I'd say that one is very special. But I do think that, and because there's lots of sort of sad bits in that, but there's something to be said for just a book that's funny. And I think The World's Worst Children, which is a book of short stories about really badly behaved children, sometimes I just really I just think, well, that's one of the best things I've done because it's just funny. Well, I think it's funny anyway, and to make people laugh is a wonderful thing. People often think, oh well, it's only making people laugh, but actually, to really belly laugh is a rare thing. So I don't know. I guess I like them all in certain ways, but the boy in the dress is a special one because it was first, and the world's worst children is probably the funniest.
Yeah, I think Bertie's in the chat now, so he can say thank you for answering that question. You there, Bertie? No, is the answer to that, right?
It just doesn't you.
Well, that's it. I've really annoyed him. He's furious. Right, so
3 more questions.
yes, I think we're going to. I mean, answer as many as you want, but I was going to do a couple more, and then.
Okay, yeah, let's do like 3 more.
So yeah, we'll go to Natalie.
Tea ready.
Yes, Natalie, are you on the microphone there? Oh, well, that's not working. We'll have to move on. Would you do a challenge as big as Swim in the Channel again? Asks Gemma, and if so, what would you like to do?
I wouldn't, because I'm older now, and that I think was 2006. I think I did that, and I think I did the Channel about 2011, something like that. Sorry, the Thames about 2011, and I just think I'm knackered out now, and I just don't know what I could do, because there's a point where you just physically think it's going to wreck me. I mean, I'd love the adventure of going to something like the Arctic or Everest, or for the adventure of it, but I don't know, and it's different now. I'm a dad now, so I'm not so willing to take the risks that I probably used to, because if you go climb Everest, there's quite a good chance people do lose their lives climbing Everest, and it's not, you're a dad to a young child, it's a risk you don't want to take. So maybe one day I'd quite like to do a challenge when I'm really old, like 75 or something.
Adds a layer of jeopardy to it.
Yeah, like me and Rob Brydon, on a tandem doing something. It's like old men, because I think that could capture people's imaginations, because I don't know, you haven't really seen challenges with very elderly people. So you can wait a sort of 30 years. We'll do one then.
Yeah, that would be great.
If we're still well known.
If it's a running challenge, I might have to get on board, just so I can maybe best you for the first time. So David, following on from the young ones, I'm called Vivian. My question: have you ever been to Halifax?
No, I can't think I have. I don't know. I mean, I would love to go. I'll make sure I get to do a book signing or something in Halifax.
Yeah, there's a lovely shop called Book Corner there, which you might.
Well, I'm there. As soon as lockdown is over, it's the first place I'm visiting.
Lovely. Jessica is shy, but she just wants to say hi. Could you say hello? Hello, Jessica.
Hello. And yes, it's a very charming thing being shy, but don't be too shy.
Yeah.
Imagine
if you'd refused that. Imagine if you'd said no. That would have been unbelievable. Have you picked up a new skill in lockdown? I think that's a good one to end on.
Have I picked up a new skill in lockdown? Well, I've certainly been doing a lot more cleaning than I normally would do, and washing and ironing and things like that. So normally I have a cleaning lady to help me with those things, but obviously she's been not been able to work, so I've been doing those things. I mean, I knew how to do those things, but I just hadn't done them in a while. So yes, I've got good at loading the washing machine. Little insight into my privileged life that I wasn't doing that previously.
You've turned into Kim Woodburn during this apocalypse.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been good at cleaning. I've actually enjoyed doing those things and actually having more time. You sort of think, I don't really mind doing stuff like that. There's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, mainly that. But it's been wonderful talking to you. It's been a real privilege to support this fantastic charity. And I'm so chuffed so many people wanted to tune in and listen to us.
Yeah, very exciting.
Well, I hope it was better than Jason Manford's.
It was certainly, you were certainly easier to understand, probably, given his northernness.
Yeah, he can't help that. But it's always a treat to talk to you, and keep up the fantastic work at the hospice. I know this is a tough time for everybody, particularly anyone who's looking after others. But you can't get it. sort of better group of people than people who work in a children's hospice. You know, devoting their lives to helping others at the point of their greatest need. So, a huge tip of my hat to them, and to all the carers out there, and all the families, and obviously all the kids as well.
Yeah, indeed. Well, thank you for watching. This has been episode 2 of Jack, Carroll and Friends with David Walliams.
Thank you, Jack. You're a superstar.
So the donation link is www.forgetmenotchild.co.uk/donate if you'd like to donate. And we'll be back next week with Frankie Boyle.
Oh, no.
Yes. That is not a children's friendly broadcast.
No.
It's
No children allowed. He's a
The
genius.
opposite.
He's a genius, though.
Yeah.
Have fun with Frankie, and I'll speak to you soon, Jack.
Yes, I will do. Cheers, David.
Take care,
Thank you.
mate.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.